rates up through the ceiling. And don't be thinking you're going to be burning wood, because that puts too many particulates in the air, you Reading people. You Shasta County wood-burning types, forget about it. You better get used to being cold and riding your bike. Okay, so he said we're going to reduce our greenhouse gases by 80% below 1990 levels by 2050. So I found myself a chart and I looked and I said, all right, where are we if reducing our greenhouse gas emissions 80% below 1990 levels? What year is that going to go back to? Where are we going to be at? When did we last have greenhouse gas emissions not 80% below 1990? What year is that? What year is that? What year is that? 1934. A stellar year that I'm sure you recall, was wonderful. I remember it well. We had nothing. It was during the Depression. We weren't emitting anything. But you can figure that it's going to be even worse than that because there's more of us now than there were in 1934. So if we're looking at per capita levels, we're going to be worse and higher, and it'll be back in the 1880s. Probably. What are they doing to our country? If an enemy took us over and wanted to destroy us, they couldn't do a better job. Taking away, yes, that's right. Taking away our ability to fish, to hunt, to grow. Did you know that growing, that putting a seed in the soil, that breaking, that tilling, that breaking the surface of the soil releases greenhouse gas emissions and is unsustainable? You think I'm kidding? I am so not kidding. They have this new way of putting a seed in the soil. It's seed injection. How much does that cost? A fortune. Removing you from the rural areas and the suburban areas is the goal of United Nations Agenda 21. And one reason for it, besides all of the other stuff, besides the fact that they want to get you into an area where they can manage you, control you, monitor you, and surveil you, is that you're not going to care about your neighbor. You're not going to stand up when you see your neighbor taken away because you're living in a transient area. And if you rat out your neighbor, if you turn your neighbor in, all you have to do is move a block away and nobody will know. It's about destroying you. This is about destroying your humanity. This is the goal. They are taking their page out of the page of a book that has long been written by Stalin, by Lenin, by Mao, and by Hitler, by Pol Pot, by Idi Amin, by Pinochet. I will say one thing for those German people that will be somewhat of an excuse for them, although they do not deserve it. The Holocaust had not occurred when they created the Holocaust. We have no excuse. Look inside yourself now and find that courage, because you will need it. We will need it. We will need to know. We will need to know who we are. We will find out who we are. We will find out if we are willing to stand up and say no. And we'll know if we're willing to die. I am willing to die. I am willing to die, and I mean it. I absolutely mean it. And I hope, because, and I'm nobody, I am nobody. This is about our humanity. This is about being able to survive as a human being. I don't want to live unless I am a human being. And this is what it's all about. We have history behind us to know. We have seen this before in some of our lifetimes, and we know. And we must be vigilant. Communitarianism is very powerful. It sways you with peer pressure. Oh, what's the matter? You're not going to go along to get along? What's the matter? You don't want to be part of the gang? Come on. People would rather suffer physical harm than be rejected by their neighbors. Find your group, and I think you have. When you find your group of people that you can stand with, encourage, this is the important thing. And if there's no one to stand with you, then you be that person for others. Because this is where it's at. Your government is your enemy, and I'm so sorry to say that. I'm so sorry to say that, and I'm afraid to say it too. And that means something to me also, to have fear when I'm saying that. So I want to tell you something about, this is from Growing Smart, a legislative guidebook. I want to tell you this because I want you to know that it's not just me saying your government is your enemy. I want your government to tell you right here that it's your enemy. Your government has written this down for you and told you right here that you are its enemy. Okay, this is from Growing Smart, a legislative guidebook with model statutes for planning and the management of change. Okay, remember that was put out by the President's Council on Sustainable Development. Now, yeah, it came out of the Clinton years, but it doesn't matter. It does not matter. This is the law of the land now. And what they said in this, well, this is the executive summary. You can get this easily. I've got it on my website. It's Democrats against UN Agenda 21. Don't let that stop you. Okay? Now, all right, now what they're telling you here, they're talking about building consensus. That's another one of these buzzword things that they do, building consensus. Building consensus, what is that? That's just creating, they're like creating more and more people that agree with them. Okay, so what they're saying here is they want to educate targeted audiences, that's you, about the value and benefits of planning and smart growth. Okay, they want to indoctrinate you. They're in the process of indoctrinating you, and you're paying for it. And they want to uncover myths used by opponents to misconstrue smart growth. Okay? So that's the other thing. They're indoctrinating you, and they're lying to you about what smart growth is and how cool it is and great for you. Okay? Equally important, these are their words, equally important is challenging interests. That's you. Challenging interests that seek to pass new legislation, expanding the activities that qualify as regulatory takings and therefore require compensation under the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution. Now, what does that mean? They're saying that if you know that your rights are being taken, through regulatory takings, and that's by scenic corridors, biotic resources, buffer zones, critical area ordinances, identifications as wetlands, habitats, where you are losing the use of your property and losing the value of your property, the government is telling you that they intend to fight you if you want to try and pass new legislation that protects you and compensates you for the loss of your use of your property. Now, I work for a government agency, I told you that, and that government agency acquires property under eminent domain for road purposes. That is for a public use, and I support that. But when you have your government looking at you as an enemy and saying, if you want to be compensated for the taking of your rights and your use, and we can't afford to pay you. We just don't have the money to pay you. We want to put these corridors all over the United States so that animals can get there, wherever. We want to get those wolves, for crying out loud. You think you're going to be out in the, oh, I think I'll just go take a walk in the woods by myself. See ya later. They're releasing wild carnivores into the woods, into the wild. This is happening all over the United States. They're encouraging it. They are getting you out of the rural areas. Okay? If you want to be compensated for loss of use of your property, they will fight you because they can't afford it. They want to take you and not pay. Regulatory takings. The wildlands is the other half of smart growth. Wildlands and smart growth go together. Main thing is getting you into the city. Creating the wildlands is what's going to happen to all the rest of the land in the United States and across the world. And they do it by declaring your area a habitat, by saying that you've got, some fish somewhere, by saying there's some bird in a tree, by saying that you've got some salamander under a rock, by saying that you can't put in a septic system on your 45, 60 acres, 800 acres, 2,000 acres, 3,000 acres, half a country, because you might be a half a mile from a stream. There's about 60 million roadless acres in the United States now, but that's not enough. They're doing this thing in Sonoma County where I live where they are deciding now, the Board of Supervisors has just said that of the 1,384 miles of roads in this rural county, they will only be paving 150 miles. 150 miles of rural roads will be paved. The rest will fall into ruin. They're talking about pulverizing them into gravel. Is that going to affect your property value out there? How's that going to go when you don't have a car anyway? How are you going to get out to your property? How much is that worth? Think you're going to lose that pretty soon? You growing something out there? It better be a pretty high value crop. I don't know what they're going to do if they decide to make that stuff illegal again, because isn't that the only thing that's supporting most of these counties? Where are they getting that money? What are they getting it from, welfare or something? I don't know. Where does that money come from? Yeah, I see it. It cycles. It recycles. It's just the same amount of money recycling all the time. It's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Poverty. This is how it happens. They create the new poverty. This is the goal. The more people on the dole, the more they'll be willing to do whatever it takes to get that money. The less people who own private property, the less people who care if you lose your private property rights. If I'm living in an apartment in Redding, I am not going to care. I'm going to think you're a big pig if you're out there on your 3 or 5 or 6 or 10 acres. What, am I going to feel sorry for you, Santa? Forget about it. That's right. All right, this is the deal. They're using the cover of environmentalism to impose the rigid control of a totalitarian state. That is what's behind the green mask. It's an abuse of trust. And all of us have been abused in our lives, and we all know that it's not what your abuser says, it's what they do that matters. And we see what they do. They may tell us that we want to hear your opinion. Come on down to that visioning meeting. We want to know what you think. No. What happens, what the reality is, what it looks like, is the real thing. And the real thing is the imposition of a totalitarian state. The FBI is doing domestic surveillance right now. The ACLU is fighting that. Make your allies where you can. You don't have to agree on everything,